Today we're going to talk about the wilderness mindset and survival and the rule of threes. Nothing is quite as important when you find yourself in a wilderness survival situation as your mindset. I mean, all the knowledge, all the rest of that in the world, it's going to be like a test in high school. You're going to find yourself wondering, what in the heck do you do now? And everything's blank. You can't remember what you're supposed to do. Well, that's caused by a lack of confidence, ultimately. You've got to be assured in that you know what to do before you're in a situation where you need to do it. And that's mindset, knowing that you've got this. And you've got this. Anybody does. Anybody can do the basic things necessary to survival, even if you've got things wrong with your body, or you've got things that you think you can't do, or you'd be too scared of doing, or you just can't perceive yourself doing it. Well, you actually can. You have got this. It is not just some special dude, you know what I'm saying, that has spent half of forever out in the wilderness that can perform wilderness survival. It's all of us. I've spent the last 45 years learning, and it doesn't matter. You, if you've just come into this, or you've been doing it a while, or you've gone out and actually tried some skills and learned some things, okay, you have this. But it all starts with the concept of, man, what do I do? It doesn't matter. I can do it. That's where the knowledge comes in. Once you've got yourself assured that you can do it, that's where the rule of threes was invented by the U.S. military. Now, it's been expanded since then. It starts out with 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without heat, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. That is the list, and that sets a list of priorities in your mind, what you have to accomplish next. You start out with air. You know, have you fallen into a river? Did your raft overturn? What have you? Did a vehicle go off the road into or off a bridge? Air is the first thing you have to worry about. If you're in water or under snow or any situation, if you're trapped underneath rocks or dirt, you have to get air first, so you worry about air and nothing else until you've got air accomplished. Then you go on with heat, because if you've fallen into a river, or you've gotten cold, or just the simple fact that you're going to need water before nightfall, you're going to need the heat to purify water. You're going to need the heat to get warm. And 3 hours without heat, everybody assumes that's automatically talking about shelter, and that's not true. It's talking about fire. The fire, then shelter, and clothing, and then you go on to water. Why is water important? Well, your body will only last 3 days without water, and it's not completely accurate, but it's not completely false either. I mean, for the average person, it's somewhere around 3 days. Those people have been known to last as long as a week, depending upon the conditions and the situation. And in some deserts, people have been known to die within a day or two. So none of these are hard and fast rules. But 3 weeks without food comes into play, because that's what you can go the longest without. Now, a lot of people have heard, a lot of you watching me now have heard the rule of threes before. What you haven't necessarily always heard, because a lot of the people speaking them don't even know. Okay? They just know what the rule of three says. They don't know why it was put down. That's what you need to know. Okay? These put a clear focus in your mind of what to work on, when to work on it, what to prioritize, and why to prioritize it. But, for instance, if you are in the Midwest and you've gone without water for 2 days, you're going to be dragging by the third. You're going to be addle-brained enough to where you may die just from the lack of water before the 3 days comes up, having nothing to do with just the loss of water from your body, but from the mental stuff that'll come with it. Just like if you've gone 2 weeks without food, you're going to be so weak that you can barely get food even if you find it at that point. So don't think you can go 3 to 4 weeks or whatever without food. Because in truth, after 2 weeks, you're going to need assistance to survive. That's true of any of us. It's just one of those things. You get so scatterbrained just because of the lack of fats in your diet that you can't even think anymore. And you get so weak that you can't even pick up a bow, let alone shoot it accurately, let alone draw it, or have enough energy just to walk out and check snares that you've already put up, or fishing lines, or what have you. Food is a higher priority than you would assume, but it's not everything. You've got to get air first. You've got to get heat. You got to make sure your clothing is dry, that you've got adequate clothing, that you've got shelter and fire. You've got to make sure you've got water, because once you start getting thirsty, you'd be surprised how mad that lack of water can drive you. It can drive you to doing stupid things, including drinking water that, instead of purifying water from a stream, there's a lot of people who go up and just start drinking it straight out of the stream. That, so long as you get back to civilization within a certain time period, might be just fine. But you're taking a chance on several different bacteria, several different viruses, several different strains of diatoms and other nasties that can live in the water that can kill you dead. Some of them are fast, some of them are slow, some of them are insidious. In the CDC, for instance, they claim that there is no potable drinking water, surface drinking water, anywhere in North America. That includes Canada. Okay, that little clear stream that you're assuming is clear, there's no assuming it's clear. Just because it tastes fine is meaningless. Just because it looks fine where you're at is meaningless. You don't know what's dead around the bend laying in that stream of water. That smells and tastes perfectly fine to you. And that's just the way it goes. With wilderness survival, most everything is about knowledge. Okay? After you have the knowledge, you've got to be able to put it to use. That's called skill. So when you hear people talk about knowledge and skill, well, there you go. That's what they're talking about. The knowledge is what's to do. The skill is the real-time practice of being able to do it in real life. Because just knowing how to make a friction fire, for instance, doesn't mean you're going to be able to have the hand-eye coordination necessary to run a bow drill. It takes a little bit of practice. Where you don't want that practice is when your life is depending upon it, because that's where you don't want failure. Knowing exactly what you need to do to attain those things is what you want to have beforehand. It goes hand in hand with your mindset, with the rule of threes. Next comes knowledge. Then you add to that skills, practical skills that you know how to do. Once you've flint knapped your first arrowhead, the rest becomes really simple. you figured out enough to be able to do what you have to do. You can knock a flake off a piece of flint to use as a knife. You know how to make your own arrowheads if you have to. The first time you've ever made a bow, the next bow is really easy in comparison. The first time you've done anything with your own two hands, afterwards it is so much simpler. So, my advice, truthfully, practice this stuff literally in your front yard or your backyard or whatever. You don't have to go out into the woods to practice your skills. If you've got a barbecue grill, you can gather up wet materials and figure out how to make fire with nothing but wet materials. You don't have to be out in the middle of the woods to figure this stuff out. And if you figure it out in the comfort of your front yard or your backyard, if you do find yourself in a wilderness survival situation, like being out hunting and getting lost, then guess what? That becomes easy. After that point, you don't even need somebody like me at that point. Because at that point, you're becoming self-sufficient. And the more self-sufficient you are, the more confident you naturally become. And it's going to show in life as well as just in your backyard or out in the woods. It's going to show up at your job site. Whatever you're doing in life, you're going to become more confident in because of the fact that you will start gaining confidence in yourself. And there is the key, ladies and gentlemen. The biggest thing I want to teach you is how to become confident in yourself, in your own skills, to where you know you've got this. Because then I've done my job properly. And at that point, you have gained something huge because it works everywhere.